Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Resource Management and Cost Analysis at MLB Network. My name is Anna Kulisheva and I'll be your moderator. In this webinar, you will learn how MLB Network, American television sports channel, embarked on a journey to replace its manual system for tracking journal entries, payroll, and show costs with an adaptable financial analysis and reporting solution. This event is live, so if you have any questions throughout the session for our speakers, please put them in the Q&A or chat box. We'd love to hear from you. We also have a few valuable resources for you to download at the Resource Hub. And now I'm delighted to introduce our speakers. We've got Paul Ramos, Director of Financial Planning and Analysis at MLB Network, and Odetta Pine, Solution Specialist at G7. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the intro, Anna. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I'm delighted to have Paul here from MLB Network with us to tell us a little bit about, his issues and business problems. And then obviously kind of the path to success. But before we even get started, what I would like to do is throw some poll questions at you guys, just to kind of understand a little bit of the audience who's attending and what are some of the issues we have. And here we go. Poll number 1, what tool does your finance team use?
We'll give a few more seconds for the poll, and then we'll see the results. And the results are on screen.
All right. And let's go on with the next one, Anna. What is your biggest challenge in finance? In financial reporting, essentially.
A few more seconds for everyone to submit their responses, and then we'll see the results.
All right. Everyone deals with lack of real-time insights and integration of multiple data sources. Not new, very familiar with those. And then let's go to the next one, Anna. Thank you. What is the average time taken for your team to complete a financial month-end close? This is a good one, Paul. The every day, every month struggle.
We'll give it a couple of more seconds.
One to 3 days, 3%, and 4 to 7 days, 29%. Wow, pretty good. Great.
Mhm.
Do we have any more questions, Anna, or that was it, I believe?
We have two more polls.
Two more. Yes. If we can go on with the next one, that'd be great. Which area do you feel requires the most improvement in your finance department? This is a really good one too, Paul.
Oh yeah, this is the one that we keep struggling with as well.
And y'all are not the only ones.
Please, can everyone submit their votes and then we'll share the results. All right, and the results are on screen.
Data accuracy and reporting speed, as well as staff training and development. Three good valid points. And then we can go on to the next one and the final one. Are you considering upgrading or changing your financial reporting tools in the next 6 to 12 months? Yes, definitely. No, we're satisfied and know what we need to vote. Great, great. All right. Well, with that being said, Anna, I think, Paul, we can get started.
Okay.
I want to get started a little bit with, first of all, who is MLB Network? Can you tell us a little bit more about who is MLB, kind of your role, your team, right? Kind of what you do on your day-to-day,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
month-end kind of tasks. And then, we'll dive into some of the problems that, you had when we came on board, and then take it from there. Also, Paul, I know that your background in sports and entertainment goes beyond MLB.
Yeah.
So whenever we're going through this, I like to kind of know a little bit, we would like to kind of know a little bit more about that and how MLB,
Sure. I've been fortunate to be in sports and entertainment for quite a long time, going on 17, 18 years here at the network. Um, I was at IMG for a couple of years. I was at US Tennis for a couple of years. I was at the National Basketball Association for over a decade. And so I've been fortunate. Again, it seems to be uh, one of my niches that I'm really good with the sports and entertainment.
the expert in
Yeah.
the room.
So my roles, I have several roles at the network. We started in 2008 building the network. So we unfortunately we stayed sort of like startup mode forever. So we all wear many hats. I am director of FP&A. I'm also in charge of business intelligence, and I'm also responsible for financial systems. So several hats, but they're all integrated, and also responsible for labor scheduling. Um, Network started out in 2008. We were supposed to be 50 employees doing 4 hours of content, and we had the great fortune that every year we continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. But with that, we didn't have the systems or the capability to manage that growth. We've morphed from an MLB Network to a larger production company for baseball and its partners. So we do quite a bit of third-party business for um, companies like Apple, YouTube, Roku. We also do the NHL network. So fortunately, every year we keep growing and growing. We've grown out of one building into two. We're now moving towards building a new network at another location with an even larger building. So our issue was managing all that labor. Most of our cost is labor related. We turn the lights on in the building at 3 a.m. and go full to 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, almost 24 hours straight. So
Yeah.
we're always busy.
Yeah. So as you said, Paul, you went from obviously, 50 people to 1,000 really quick. At that moment where you went, that's a huge growth in such short amount of time, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest issues that you were going through in your day-to-day operations, financial tasks, but as well as monthly, right? Month end stuff. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
So we wanted to track the analogy that I use the most is that the MLB network is sort of like an ant farm. There's thousands of people. We have 4 shifts a day of people, and everyone has a role, a responsibility, a show or a program, or a piece of equipment in a location. So in order for us to track to make sure everyone was being utilized to the fullest extent, we basically were tracking things in Excel documents at the start of people, where they were working, what show they were on, if they were a cameraman, if they were utility, if they were a director. And then we were trying to reconcile that to payroll to ensure that we accounted for everybody. If they were paid, they should be on the schedule. If they're on the schedule, they should be paid. So that was a manual task. That was the beginning of a nightmare. And monthly, we were trying to create a journal entry to track that, to put all the costs to all the multiple projects where they belonged, with a relatable rate card that ensured that we weren't going to lose money, especially for third party. So that
So
was
what you're
difficulty.
what you're saying essentially, you were kind of trying to tie manually in Excel
Hmm.
operations, what's
Hmm.
happening on the ground floor, the shows, the productions, daily, but also to 15-minute increments, right? And hourly at some point, because that's
Yep,
how we run the shows, right? On
that's
all these
correct.
different channels. And then tying that with the finance, right?
Hmm.
And payroll, which is costs, right?
Correct.
And as you're going through this, you mentioned manual, right? And
Mhm.
SQL. What were some of the the issues, right? As you're manually trying to track
Um, again, it was,
operations, and then we're not even talking about reporting side of it at the month end or at the daily closing or pay the payroll part of it.
yeah, the task was simpler when it was just 50 people, but now we're basically in a given month, we can have, and depending on the season, on any given month, we can have 25 to 35,000 shifts of people in a month. So we could not do that manually. So in order to do that, we tied many, many systems together. Again, there was no one system out there that had the tools that we needed that basically tied payroll, scheduling, programming, ratings, revenues together. So we tied right as of now, I think we have 8 systems tied together in one central database. So the task was getting all that information, somehow tying all 8 together, so that they basically are all apple to apple.
Yep.
So that was difficulty. We still struggle with that today.
And why? What is the problem with that? What was the struggle today versus when we first started, right, together?
But when we first started, the struggle was just, can we do this? Is it possible? Now we're beyond that point. where every one of the stakeholders is used to the information that we provide at the detail that we provide. So we have to continue providing every ant to every show, to every piece of equipment, to every hour they worked, so that we can maintain budgets, maintain a profit. So it's become difficult to measure and reconcile and schedule with all the systems that we currently have. Again, there is no one system. We have tried, we have looked. There is no one system that does it. No amount of money, no amount of time. It basically just can't be done. So we've tied them all together. We've created sort of like a data lake with webhooks, grabbing all these other systems and putting them into one giant lake, and then making sure that all those systems are connected somehow so we can pull the data for different audiences. So to give an example, there can be information that's financial. How are we doing with the show cost? That goes to a different audience. We also had an audience where how many people do we need and how many freelancers do we need? So we do the same kind of analysis saying, I've got 10,000 directorships on staff, but I need 20,000. So I need 10,000 freelancers. Great. When do I need them? What season? NHL season, MLB season. So all the information that we have, each piece of information has a different owner or a different audience. And again, it's not just financial. So this again, we are sort of like Dr. Frankenstein, and we made this monster, and this monster is serving many, many masters, and everybody wants the same consistency and timeliness. So maintaining that monster and maintaining the timeliness and accuracy is the struggle that we continue to have, because we keep adding more people, more shows, which again, it's a good problem. We are grateful for it, and we continue to grow. And as we grow, it becomes more difficult to schedule the mass, track the
Well,
masses.
maintaining the right cost and
Yes.
you know, bottom line you need to be at, which is again, that's the end goal, right?
That's
So
correct.
yeah, so you know, and we see this a lot, Paul, as
Mhm.
well, you know, with other clients where it is a challenge to kind of integrate a higher up level, right, of finance. We're talking about net income, EBITDA,
Mhm.
cost, all that, to, hey, what's happening daily at 50-minute increments at all this shows,
Mhm.
right? By all these different shifts and rate cards to be able to maintain that. And that's kind of, you know, the part of having a solution where, like you said, you have the data lake, right? The data lake, all the solution, all the data is there. But
Yeah.
again, the level of detail is different.
And no doubt, you know, the the level of detail is insane, because we go down to, is that person a staff? Is that person a freelancer? Is that person on an 8-hour shift? Is that person on a 10-hour shift? So it's almost like we're running a hospital with nurses tracking overnight shifts, 10 shifts, 8-hour shifts. We do that as well. So
Yeah, but
it's
not only that, but also trying to tie that with a financial what if strategic goals for the company,
mhm,
which is, you know, which is huge. So kind of doing that, you know, top down and bottoms up and goal seeking within this process, is, you know, is it's quite complex. Which kind of, you know, leads us into the next issue we've been, you know, talking about and dealing with it, which is the limited flexibility, not only in financial reporting, but also budgeting and forecasting, right?
mhm,
Because what we're just talking about, Paul, as you said, is just okay, the operation side, right? The shifts and all that. But how do we budget and forecast all of that? You know, can you tell us a little bit more about the issues you had there?
yeah. So it would be simple if every year had the same programming and had the same amount of projects and the same amount of third party. But again, we continue to grow. So when we add a new show or add a new third party production requirement, we then have to measure and say, do I need to hire full staff? Do I need to hire freelancers? Can I use the existing staff and get synergies by saying this director will half a shift on this and half a shift on the new project? So we almost have to zero base our budget every year depending on the program schedule and the need and the seasonality. So, you know, NHL and MLB perfectly coincide. Their seasons begin and end when the others begin and end. So we have a full 12 months that makes the scheduling easier. But again, um, we still have seasonality for baseball and still have seasonality for NHL that we have to measure. And when we add new third parties, is that third party for NHL? Is that third party for MLB? Or is that just an existing third party that wants other services for just production work? So every year we zero base our budget. We throw all our head count in a pool and try to plan out by the day, by the season, by the show, and then find the freelance need. We also have to build, because we do that, we have to build our rate card every year from scratch, depending
And
on how many
that's a
freelancers.
lot of overhauling. And
Yeah,
think about, you had this in Excel
yeah.
before, and now is that fully automated almost by just clicking a few buttons? And
Um, Almost. What's happened is we've created webhooks grabbing all the other systems to have a nightly pull into this huge data warehouse or data lake. And then from there, we pull our reports. There's still some reconciliation, timeliness begin because of payroll. Um, so we're at the mercy of uh, payroll mistakes. We're at the mercy of scheduling mistakes, which happens. So we're constantly reconciling our data, and the fact that we're trying to do it weekly to daily is improved. We used to do this quarterly and then monthly. Now we're trying to get it to weekly and daily. So the process is improving,
yeah.
but again, it's maintaining many different systems. The issues that we have with the many systems is if one system has to be replaced or upgraded, we have to worry about the connections and the data hooks to make sure that what we're pulling is still the same in the same format. So whenever we do an upgrade or whenever we replace a system, it's a little bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, and we're talking about the flexibility here, right? And automation. You mentioned you have seasonality, right?
Yeah.
Which that is huge, and it's kind of part of the reason, again, zero CBB, right? And then kind of modifying it. Now, we didn't talk a little bit about the financial reporting side of those, right? Because you got two entities, you got MLB and you got NHL, and they're on two different fiscal calendars, right? Because they're two
That's
different
correct.
seasons. Tell me a little bit more about that. What was the biggest kind of challenge with managing that, right? Because you got the operations side that we talked
Mhm.
about, but you also got the financial reporting side, which they're slightly different, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can
So
you tell me
again,
a little bit more about that?
we create a budget based on we're a calendar based January through December fiscal year. So we base our calendar on that, our budget on that, our forecasts on that. But in between, the NHL is a July to June fiscal year. So we kind of measure that as well. So all our reports have filters. Is this filter MLB fiscal or NHL fiscal? About 10 years ago, we had MLB used to have an October and a December fiscal. So at one point we had three fiscal reporting periods. Now it's down to two. So not as bad as it was. It's getting better. But everyone's understanding of the two different fiscal years is now commonplace. So what happens is when you're hiring freelance and when you're hiring labor, as long as it can be what we call sort of like the Swiss Army knife. Can they work on other projects? Can they work on NHL as well as MLB or third party? Then they basically are here for the 12 months, and we can count on that body being here, just slicing it into many different projects. So we budget down. Again, this is just a show cost. We also budget by departments. So there's overhead, there's departmental, there's capital, um, revenue. The streaming is another component that we basically have to measure each MSO. So every cable company sponsorships. And it's a lot of moving pieces, but we've got it down to a science, and the stakeholders of each area are very comfortable of what we're providing, and they're aware of I use this a lot. It's the duck on the pond syndrome. We basically, it looks easy, but they don't see all the paddling underneath that we're doing to keep the data flowing and to keep the data timely and accurate. They just get the end report and they're happy with it. And then they're so happy with it, they want more, which is again, it's great for us that they're enjoying the data. They're looking at that level of detail, but we're struggling underneath the water paddling to keep these connections and keep this data flowing at the detail and timeliness that they're expecting.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned obviously the budgeting forecasting, shifts, right?
Mhm.
And rate cards and all of that. And you also mentioned departmental budgeting
Mhm.
and planning, which is, of course, easier
Yeah.
than, the first one. Um, can you tell us a little bit currently, what level of detail do you actually do the budget and forecasting at that level? And kind of, when you do your actuals, budget versus actuals versus forecast,
Yeah.
do you go down to the transactional level? I know you mentioned journal entry,
Mhm.
right? Do you tie the two together? Can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit more about that?
So again, the capital project is normal. We do that annually. Capital goes in, we do the anticipated placed in service dates and do the amortization. That's normal. Departmentals we do on a monthly basis. So the data is monthly. We track it monthly. So for every department, I think we have something like 40 departments. So we budget to 40 different departments at the monthly level at their expenses. And then we do salary and benefits separately. So salary and benefits is done again by department, by employee, by payroll. So we have 26 payrolls. So that's done separately. Um, the show reporting is the most detailed. The show reporting is down to the day, down to the show, down to the person, down to the shift. We budget that way. It seems insane, but what happens is we have so many bodies. Again, on any given month, we can have anywhere from, again, 35,000 shifts. If every show added one extra body, it would be a substantial loss for us. So we measure every single shift for that reason. And we're always asking our stakeholders to find synergies so that we can basically share resources. So that, again, if one body can work on multiple shows or multiple networks, it helps our bottom line.
Right.
So
Because again,
everyone's used to
you're
having these conversations on a monthly basis. How
right,
are we doing?
right. Because this is again staff utilization, right?
Mhm.
That the better you get at it, the less, costs are incurred,
Yeah.
and therefore the higher bottom line for either
Mhm.
MLB and NHL and all combined together. So as you can tell, whoever is attending now and listening, we've had the main issue here is the amount of, data coming from operations, right? HR, finance,
Mhm.
different level of details, right? We talked about shifts, we talked about, resources, we talked about, rate cards, and then how do you tie that to the department and how do you tie that to, the financial, the GL account, right? And then from there, how do you do budget versus actuals, right? So we're talking about a lot of complexities, a lot of
Mhm.
calculations, multiple fiscal calendars that
Yes.
you have to shift back and forth, which again, you have to make sure that the data is accurate. And if operations is looking at a report, they're looking at the right thing. If, like production, they're looking at the right thing. Finance, so again, a lot of problems with a lot of cost behind it, right?
Yep.
Which kind of, takes us to the next piece here of, the solutions that we created, right?
Mhm.
We have been working together for quite a bit, and we're
Yeah.
still currently work together. Um, talk us, tell the audience a little bit about kind of what were the most important outcomes and ROIs of setting up solutions, streamlined solutions all in one, like we did together. And
Great.
the
We're
first
going back
one, I
and
mean, we can start with the first one. I kind of highlighted the three ones that we have. I know there's more that, we all know, but flexible financial reporting, right? Budget and forecasting solution. Tell us what you got from where you are right now.
So the flexibility is great. So right now, what we're doing again is we're able to, with all the connections, provide more than just financial data now. So we can have conversations with HR about staffing. We can have conversations with productions about programming, and we can have conversations with ad sales about Nielsen reporting and cost per show. We can have conversations with finance about salary and benefits and rate card. All of this has become sort of almost push button because, again, we're extracting data from multiple sources and reconciling them in the database together to get those end results. So the financial reporting and budgeting, we do 2 to 3 forecasts a year, depending on the significant amount of change. The system allows us to, again, copy that much detail and forecast that much detail, again, down to the person, to the day, to the show, to the role, to the program. And we can forecast that way in mid-season. So we're able to adapt if something comes along that's big enough. And it's happened quite
Quite a
a few
bit.
times where we've added huge projects, or again, when we added the NHL, we were able to shift and say, we can handle this. Don't worry. We can figure out who's able to work and how many more bodies do we need. And it was pretty quick. So we're able to give the partners that needed to make decisions the information pretty quickly. So again, the forecasting has come a long, long way, and we're proud of that. Again,
Yeah.
what we do is
And
not easy. Everybody
yeah, and
knows that, and they appreciate it.
again, talking about multiple data sources, right? And also
Yeah.
talking about your old Excels and one version of the truth.
Mhm.
Is it fair to say right now that your data accuracy, the one version of the truth, is there,
Yeah.
and you're happy with it,
Yeah,
essentially?
we're happy with it. And again, we're always finding ways to improve things with, little steps. Every year we find ways to, get more timely, get more accurate. So it allows us to also take some risks and say, hey, what if we try this? And if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. We go back to the way we did it, last month. So again, it's allowed us to be extremely flexible. And again, since we are FP&A, business intelligence and systems, we have lots of people who are looking for data and results that are not just financial. So we're proud of
Yeah.
that. We like
And
that.
we talk about, one thing I want to point out here for the audience, which is, in most of the clients we see companies, you have your IT department or data BI that maintains that part, which
Mhm.
is, all of the APIs, the data integration, consistency, ETLs. And then
Mhm.
you have, your payroll, HR data, which, again, it's managed by IT, and then the reporting, they have their own reporting or whatever.
Mhm.
And then obviously you'll have finance, which is you that
Mhm.
have that data, right? So essentially this functions, they're usually, divided, but you as finance,
Mhm.
so you maintain it all, right? And that is huge. Given how many people do you have in your team currently?
Uh, uh, Last year, the most we had was 2. Now we're up to 4.
So, having owning all of the data, but also owning the processes, right?
Mhm.
And owning the reporting with those very few heads that you have. I mean,
Mhm.
having a system slash solution that, is fully integrated, automated, does the ETL, has
Mhm.
been crucial, I think, for, this past 6 years, over
Yeah.
than that, to get where you need to be, right? So we talked a little bit about automation, right?
Mhm.
What are some, and I know in detail the reconciliation process is not an easy process for
Yeah.
MLB, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the ROIs and what you got from having a
Yeah.
solution and automation
So
and
what, again, we started off as a network, and then we morphed into a production company. So when we morphed into the production company, we were given more slices of work from MLB. We got production, media. We were able to take their deliverables and do it with our staff. And we reduced their labor in the first pass, I think $6 to $8 million. And then on the second path, like $9 million, because we were able to charge only what was needed. There was no overhead, there was no supervisor levels or management levels. If it required, one director, one cameraman, that's what we booked. If it required half a day of a cameraman, that's what we booked. So that synergy of bringing all that production work that was basically had managers and directors and full-time staff and freelancers, and they were paid on the day rate. We were doing it at, you know, a third of the labor, and down to if only an hour was needed, we only charged an hour. So we
right,
found ways to take that on, and by doing so, we got more work. So we're again, we became more relevant, and we're appreciative of the work. So we keep getting more work and outside production. So it helps. At the same time, the way we schedule, we're able to find synergies, and when when we get more third-party work and we're able to split shifts, MLB and network and NHL network gets cheaper.
right, right. Um, so throughout this process, right, um, we overcome quite a lot of challenges, right? Business problems, but also technical problems together, as you know. How did this improve per se the collaboration, the cross-functional collaboration between obviously operations, productions, HR, but also finance? What did you
Yeah,
see
again,
there?
uh, um, as I said before, adding that information, sometimes it wasn't even a financial conversation. We had conversations, and we still have them now on staffing, um, where we can drill down to the need and the labor need, and then have a conversation with HR and the executives to figure out, is it more productive to hire someone, or is this seasonal work that would just require freelance labor or seasonal labor? So we can have those conversations. And again, they're financial in a way, but they're also headcount related. And
Right,
we're also able to when it's time for promotions, they would come to us and say, we'd get questions like, how many times did the segment producer work up to producer? And we can say, yep, that person is ready to be promoted to producer. We've seen that Jane Doe worked, hundreds of shifts as producer, so she's ready. So it was giving them data for other things that were not just financial. So we are responsible in FP&A for the budgeting of salary and benefits. So HR relies on us to get that accurate. And again, we need to do uh, we need to own that piece because it's related to our rate card. It's related to our shift count. So it's a one giant wheel of nothing comes first, but everything has to be populated. So program
right,
schedule, what staffing do I have, freelance need, it's a wheel. So we keep entering the information, and at any given time, it's like, okay, it's time to put the budget in. So whatever we have at that moment is our budget, and
right,
we stick with
right,
it.
right. Um, in the where you are right now, right? It's been obviously a long process, efficient. I think to where you were when we first started. What are some of you know the best practices from a process perspective that you
Mhm.
could give the audience having gone through this? And what I'm talking about, Paul, is how do you work with your departments, right? How do you make something like this happen? How do you have a user adoption high user adoption, right? How do you get people to listen to you that this is the right thing to do? Can you tell us, and then also
Yeah,
the process, right? The selection process, why did you choose us and can you give the
yeah.
audience some
It,
advice on
it's
that?
it's a give and take, and it's always a struggle because again, when we're talking about entertainment and sports, you're going to have one faction of the people who want to do the Super Bowl every night. They want drones, they want extra cameras, they want, high definition, they want more graphics. So we kind of tame that expectation to say, look, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. We have a full year to do this. We're trying to maintain a budget. So they've all basically joined with us to understand that in order for us to keep the lights on and keep the salaries going, we all agree that there is a happy medium of what they put on the screen and what our budget is. And we've basically taken, for example, the reconciliation used to be a monthly reconciliation. We've now got it down to a weekly, and we're trying to get it better than that. So we can tell everyone how they're doing each week. So if there's an issue with one program or an issue with one section of labor, we can catch it far quicker. When we used to do it monthly, if we caught it, that meant there was another month with the same issue where they were over because we didn't
Right.
catch it in time. So now everyone understands that yes, it's a little bit more work, but we get more bang for our buck if we start doing this weekly. And we're in the process of again trying to improve that to almost daily. We'll probably get there in 2026. So each entity understands that yes, we are a pain, but it proves dividends because when they ask for things or when they ask for additional bells and whistles, we're able to work with them and provide some of them because we're doing it at this level. So we're frugal and we want to
Right.
remain that
Right.
way.
Right.
Mhm.
No, awesome. I know we're at 9:45 almost. This was a great session, Paul. Thank you. And I see a lot of questions kind of popping up on the screen. So I want to make sure, Anna, we have the time to kind of address those questions. I'm gonna leave, our information up for the audience if there is, any ideas you might have or any questions or you want to talk to Paul and kind of pick his brain on a few things, feel free. But yeah, let's open it up for some of the questions.
Yes, that's right. We have some time for the questions, and there's one from Gary. Continuous improvement typically begins with solving specific problem with root cause analysis and driving actions. What models did you use to drive the transformation of your processes?
Hmm.
Paul, you want to answer
Um,
that?
yeah, that's a tough one because we we have so many businesses under one roof now. It's a network, it's a production company, it's a media company, it's a remote production company. We do remote production. So there wasn't one model that really fit us, and that's the reason why we have so many connections to multiple systems, including scheduling. So we have a whole section of models that we use for network and programming. And there's another model that we use for third party and outside production, remote production. We slice it up into individual sections and then combine them together because the one connection that we have on all the slices is the labor. So each person could then, again, I use the phrase a lot, is a Swiss Army knife. That person can work on an MLB Network show for 2 months and then work on a production show for 2 months and then work on a remote show for 2 months. Same person, again, getting utilization out of it. So different models, different. We couldn't build with one model. It didn't exist for us. That's why there wasn't any one system that worked for us either.
And
Right.
again, one box doesn't fit all, right? And I think
Mhm.
as we see a lot of clients and prospects coming to us with these problems, you realize, unfortunately, there's one solution that fixes everything, right? And it's
Mhm.
flexible enough to address all the different complexities and issues that arise in all different departments, essentially. And then you kind of go down to the data as well. And for a complex sports and entertainment company, I mean, you know, there's a lot of different slicing and dicing and, you know, what if and exception-based reporting that unfortunately there's really not one solution that fits all. So, and I think
Right.
companies are realizing that and they're okay with having, you know, more than one or two solutions that address all these problems. But at the end, what we see is that you're kind of, you know, aligning all of them together through either, you know,
And
yep, go
and
ahead, Paul.
Abdetta, we built it so that it's flexible, so that it's not rigid. That's the whole purpose, is to remain as flexible
Exactly.
as possible so that we can go and jump from a network model to a production model to a remote model, and allows us to be flexible. So it's working, and I don't see us deviating from what we've already created. We're just adding to it. So again, we're remaining flexible. The timeliness is there, the accuracy is there. We just have to maintain all the connections. And right
Yep.
now, if that's the hardest part, we're in a good space.
Yeah, and I think also from my perspective too, you know, Paul mentioned it earlier. You got all the systems. We got 8 systems, and they're all
Mhm.
different. So one gets upgraded, one gets changed, one gets patched up, whatever it is. You will see that right in your data and your pools. And you know,
Mhm.
one advice I would tell the audience is, you know, make sure you got your checks and balances before you kind of pull this data, meaning sit down with the other vendors on the other systems, right? And make sure that there's nothing changing on the tables, on the data points, on the ETLs, you know, the amount of information you're getting, because that changes usually as well. So, you know, kind of having those process and checks and balances is always good from a process perspective, but also from a technical perspective. There's a lot of exception-based reporting that you can do. There's always, hey, APIs that you can throw to check. Is that live? Is it not live? Is it getting the data that I have before you actually bring it into your financial system, and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
Right. And I think there's another question from Satya. One size does not work for all industries, but can we have an approach by industry that can be used as a baseline?
Mm. Mm.
Yes, you can. But I think also if you go by industry, there's also still a lot of complexities and nuances that are different, right? Um, Also your end user is different as well, right? Um, Kind of starting with, you know, what's important for your end user, right? What are some of those, for example, reports or what if scenarios that they do, complexities? And yes, you know, I think you can have that approach, I'd say 80-90% of the time, but also there's that 10% where you do need to have that customized flexibility. What do you think,
Yeah.
Paul?
Again, it changes. Every industry is different. When we first started, the best scheduling tool that we could use was a nursing scheduling tool for nurses. That was the best one. There was no scheduling tool that worked for us with the many shifts during the day, eights and tens in different locations. Now there's competitive scheduling for entertainment and television. So now there are choices. So we basically found the best tool and still have to modify it. And now we're looking at other scheduling tools that now are directly for television scheduling, remote scheduling. So as the industry changes, we just have to adapt. But again, the hardest part for us was to build it so that you can plug and play for the future. Because if you don't build it that way, the amount of work to constantly recreate the infrastructure to make the connections is painstaking, and it's too difficult. So we
Yeah.
made it plug and play. So if, knock on wood, any of these 8 systems were to go away and we find another one, we basically know what we have to create, what webhook, what extract, what API pull we would need to keep it going. to maintain what we currently have. So again, we couldn't find one system that did it all, but we found ways to get our data into that data lake. And we just continue monitoring what is being provided by those 8 different systems. We maintain those extracts so that if and when someone does an upgrade or if and when we replace it, as long as the extract is the same in the same format, no harm, no foul. That's
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And, going along with what Paul said, I mean, you want a solutions, where they're scalable enough and can grow with you. To Paul's point, no matter what we get thrown at us, or no matter what, if the systems are down or change, we're still are able to, get our work done, right? And be productive. So again, having a solution and a tool that grows with you and it's scalable, it's crucial. And, again, by industry, like Paul nailed it in the head, they started from a nursing tool, scheduling tool, and look where they're at right now, years after, right? So, but still, they still got those, the data lake, they still got that solution, the funding that still supports all of these different changes in the rest of the tools.
Right. And I think we have some time to answer this final question from Gary. That vision for the future to minimize technical debt is important to prevent the possibility of being locked into a limited system. What is your process for identifying this risk?
That's a great
Could you repeat
question.
that?
Can you say it again, Anna? Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, sure. That vision for the future to minimize technical debt is important to prevent the possibility of being locked into a limited system. What is your process for identifying this risk?
So our BI team is always looking out for new ways to improve all our connections. Like I said, we started off with a nursing scheduling tool, and we've morphed into 2 other scheduling tools since then. And we're currently looking at 2 other ones now. So we're always looking at a better way to improve those 8 connections, or even combine those 8 connections into fewer. So we're looking at another system that may tie in a time and attendance with scheduling and payroll to do all 3 rather than having 3 different systems. So we keep looking for ways to minimize the risk of having 8 systems and one failing at any given moment or being replaced. The hard part is that we haven't found any one system that does it all, and I don't think there will be, because if there was, everyone would be on it. So our purpose is to continue to improve our systems, our business intelligence, and our planning. And
Yeah.
it's a constant, hey, who's got the best? We're looking at currently we're looking at AI to improve some of our
That's what I was
infrastructure.
gonna get to,
So
Paul.
AI is now in the mix, and if scheduling remains and payroll remains constant, we can save headcount, and AI can basically do a large component of that. We're looking at that now as well. So we
Yeah.
just have to remain vigilant and not be afraid of new technology and new ideas.
Yeah. And I think from our perspective too, right, from a solution technical, we always, you got to have innovation. You always got to look forward, right? And as you pick these tools, it's not the normal RFP process anymore, right? You're looking out 10 years forward, 5 to 10 years forward, right? And you're looking at the tool and these questions that you guys do on the RFPs. If you're selecting a vendor, is it based on Python, right? Python is a big language right now that supports a lot of the API builds, a lot of the agentic AIs, a lot of the personal assistants and the bots within the tool, right? Or is it a black box where no one has no idea what to do, or that it requires such a mathematician, advanced math mind to be able to create these reports or the backend structure or the database, right? So you want to have, from my perspective and experience, you do want to have a really good detailed RFP process, which again looks out 5 to 10 years out, as well as you look at the language black box, right? But also the proof of concept. Let's feed in. If a vendor in a system can't have a turnaround on a proof of concept with some data set on your problem in 3 days, then you're good. You got what you need, essentially. So having a good RFP process with a proof of concept where you actually see the data, your process in action. It doesn't have to be all of it, right? But it can be whatever it's the main problems. Then it's good. And I think what we see a lot in all of the RFP process that we go through is AI, agentic AI, Python, APIs. Are they already pre-built? Do we have the bots, the agents? Can I have someone brand new thrown into MLB process on NHL, right? Budgeting and forecasting, and will they be able to onboard themselves with just an agent, right? Because again, Paul, you have a very limited team. You don't have the time to sit down and walk them through the process, right? You're busy on doing your day-to-day, your month-end, your everything. So therefore, having systems that help with that is great. So again, RFP, proof of concept. I think those are the two really points that everyone needs to keep in mind as they go through this process. So anyways.
Right. Thank you so much, Odetta and Paul, for this brilliant conversation, sharing your success story. And also thank you to our members for joining this webinar. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to reach out to Odetta and Paul on LinkedIn. And Paul, Odetta, before we wrap up this webinar, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Again, there's so much technology and there's so many new innovations out there. Just keep your mind, open to, again, there is no one solution. Don't waste your time looking for it. It's not out there. So try to build something that you can maintain with limited staffing and limited effort. So that's what we've done.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, Anna, everyone is on this AI hype. So be careful who you hire for AI agents to be implemented within your process. And I think specifically, finance. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Paul, as always. And I'll catch you guys later. Thank you, Anna, for monitoring it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.